Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 23 of the Stitching Between Pages podcast. I'm Robin, and you can find me on Ravelry as HalfPast92. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as Medievalisting. We have a Ravelry group for the podcast, which is Stitching Between Pages podcast. And you can find show notes for this and all previous episodes over at stitchingbetweenpages.blogspot.com. So today is, well, when I upload this, it will be Sunday, the 7th of February, which happens to be my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. And yeah, so welcome back if you've come back to watch again, and welcome if this is the first episode that you're watching. I hope you enjoy my chatting about knitting, and I actually have spinning this week, which is amazing. I have a little bit of crocheting, and I have a book to talk to you about. I also actually have a question to answer, and I've been meaning to say for a little while now, as a reminder that over on the Ravelry group, there is a thread where you can ask any questions that you might have, and I will either answer them in the thread or answer them on the podcast. And if you would prefer me not to answer it on the podcast, just say so. I think somebody has already done that, which is completely fine. Obviously, I reserve the right not to answer a question, but so far, nobody's asked me a question that I've been unwilling to answer. Anyways, before I dive into what I've been knitting over the past couple of weeks, I'm wearing my Daybreak shawl, which is the pattern by Stephen West. I knit this in September of 2014, I think. So well before I started podcasting. I'm pretty sure that the white is Ba-Ramu-Titus, which is alpaca. And I'm pretty sure that the purple is Tosh Merino Light. I don't remember either of the colorway names, but I will post a link to my Ravelry group. The past couple of days, I've just wanted to be kind of cozy and wrapped up in hand knits, and this is a pretty big shawl. I'm not going to take it off because it takes me a little while to get it situated properly. But oh, now that I say that, I don't actually know if there's a good picture of the full size of it on my Ravelry page. Hopefully there is. We'll see. Anyways, let me get started. I have a finished object this week, and that is my Christmas Eve cast-on socks. So I did finish the second one, and I had been thinking about entering these into the Bakery Bears Cozy Toesies knit along, but I did not finish that in time. I probably could have, but I got distracted, and I just ended up not. So that's okay. I actually finished them last night while I was watching Downton Abbey, and I Kitchenered the last toe, with my coffee this morning. So I'm really pleased with how they match. The stripes match. And I love the little picot cuffs. I think they're so cute. So the yarn that I used for these is Night Owl Fibers in her Peppermint Swirls colorway. She's on Etsy. Rachel is the dyer. And I definitely recommend checking out her yarns if you're not familiar with them. It's a really great base. It feels like they'll be really sturdy socks. And then for the heels, I used just some Cascade Heritage sock yarn, which is the same Cascade Heritage sock yarn that I use for all kinds of things. I actually really need to order some more because I probably have I ordered 2 skeins, and I probably have less than half of the second skein left. So I should probably order a couple more skeins to keep on hand, because it's just proven to be so useful for all kinds of things. I bought it originally just to border the squares on my crochet blanket, and I've ended up using it as heels and toes. I've used the yarn it's really smooth, so it works great for provisional cast-ons, all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm really pleased. These are my first finished socks of 2016, although I did cast them on last year. But yeah, I'm really pleased with these. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to start wearing them, because they are festive colors, but they don't scream Christmas to me. So I might wear them a couple times this year while it's still cold enough for hand knit socks. I don't know if I can save them that long. So anyways, that's my finished object this week. And usually I come up with the titles of episodes while I am sort of putting together my show notes after I filmed. While it's uploading, I come up with a name based on whatever I've said over the course of the episode. But this episode actually already has its name. It's called Socks and Spinning. Here's Holly. She had to come and say hello. And it is called Socks and Spinning because, let's see here, my knitting works in progress are entirely socks. I have lots of works in progress that have not really been worked on over the past couple of weeks because I was busy finishing these. I think when I filmed 2 weeks ago, I had not yet gotten to the heel turn on the second sock. So I really powered through that last sock. And then I cast on another pair of socks. And I decided, and I don't know why I decided, that I wanted to knit toe-up socks. So I am knitting these socks toe up. Oh no, that's not true. I do know why I am knitting these socks toe up. And I am knitting them toe up because I'm using some leftover yarn. This is Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering in the Lads Edition colorway. And you might recall that I knit a, what's the name of the pattern? Curious Handmade Pebble Beach Shawlette out of this yarn, which I love, but I had a fair amount left over. So I decided, I'd been thinking about making a hat out of it, but I decided that I actually really wanted socks because the yarn does have nylon in it and it feels like sturdy sock yarn, especially knit up at this much smaller gauge than I knit up the shawl. And so I'm knitting them toe up because this is what I have. So I had, I think 50 grams, almost exactly 50 grams to start with, which is not enough to make cuffs as long as I usually make them, but I think it will be enough to get, you know, a wearable pair of socks. And I wanted to use up every last bit of it. So, because I've already crocheted it into my blanket, I think I've given away a couple of mini skeins from it. So I'd like to use it up this time. And so I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do contrast heels or not, because I don't know that the white that I usually use would go well with this color. So I'm going to have a look through my scraps and my stash and sort of see what might work well. I don't know. But I'm really loving how it's knitting up with like this spirally swirly effect that goes from, so there's a swirl here and then it kind of keeps going. I like it. And I'm knitting these on Magic Loop for a change. This is just mixing up all of my usual sock knitting habits. I decided to go back to Magic Loop and I definitely like DPNs better. I find that this gets in the way and kind of drives me a little bit crazy. And I'd rather switch needles 4 times than have this cable getting in my way. But I love these needles. These are my Knitter's Pride carbons, and they are a US 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter, which is my standard sock knitting needle size. I really, really want to get some carbons DPNs because I don't have any, and I really like the carbons. I have several other circular needles that are carbons. I really like them, and they're really great for knitting socks. But I've kind of switched from, I did several pairs of socks with Magic Loop, and then I've kind of been switched to DPNs lately. So, and this little fellow is a lovely little progress keeper from Danny of Little Bobbins. It's a little bee. It focused for a second. There it is. And he was languishing on one of my sort of very much hibernating works in progress that I've not worked on in months. And I was thinking about it and I was like, oh, where's that little progress keeper? And so I found him and put him on a project that I'm actually working on, which makes more sense. So this is one pair of socks, and I cast this sock on, I think right after I filmed, or the evening after I filmed the last podcast. I think I talked about that I was going to cast on a new pair of socks that evening, and I did. So they're currently paused while I figure out, I'm just about to the point of having to put in the heel. I'm going to do a Fish Lips Kiss heel, I think. And, or I know I'm going to do a Fish Lips Kiss heel, there is no question. But I just need to decide. I need to do some weighing and figure out, where I am in the skein. I also think the battery on my little kitchen scale that I use for yarn has died, so I need to get a new one. But that's the sort of thing that whenever I'm at a place that sells batteries, that I forget to look at the battery and see what battery I need before I go. So my tea is still too hot to drink. I just picked it up and held it, and it was too hot. So that's one pair of socks. And then a couple of nights ago, I cast on another pair of socks. And these are my second blue knitting effort around our post-Christmas blues knit-along, which is still going for the rest of this month, the month of February. It will be closed on the 29th. And then, so I guess not next episode, but the following episode, I think that's right, will be the episode where I'll draw for prizes, which will be very exciting. But I've really enjoyed seeing everybody's projects, and just all the encouragement and all the inspiration in that thread is really wonderful. And I think it's just been a really great success for my first knit-along, and I'm really excited about that. So thank you all for participating and being excited, and it really is really great. So this yarn is Cascade Heritage Sock Yarn, but it's the Heritage Paints in the Aqua Soul colorway. So like Water Sun, Aqua Soul. And it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's 100 gram skein with 437 yards. And so I actually have two skeins of this. So I was thinking that I might try to do something that used both skeins, but then I decided that I really wanted socks from them. So that is what I went for. So here is where I am. I just started. And that is not, in fact, at all what the color looks like. It's kind of blue and purples. So there's some really bright cerulean blue flashes. Nope, that's not it at all. Blues are so hard to get to show true to color. Nope. It looks like it's all one color, and it's really not. There's sort of bright blue and almost navy blue at some points, and some lavender purple. It's really pretty. I will perhaps try to take a photo of it. So for the first time ever, there will be a cut in my podcast. I apologize. I got a phone call that I wanted to answer. So anyways, as I was saying, I will hopefully take a photo, or I will try to take a photo of this, which shows closer to color. Let me show you the cake, and maybe, no, that's not all that great either. It's really pretty, suffice it to say. And so this is yarn that has been in my stash for almost a year. I think I got it in May of last year. So anyways, now I can talk about my tea. It's in my lovely little daffodils mug, which was given to me by a friend who was living in Wales at the time. And daffodils are sort of one of the symbols of Wales. And I am drinking some Tazo peach cobbler tea, which sometimes black teas that have fruity flavors don't always work for me, but this one is really good, and it really tastes like peaches. So that is lovely. Okay, so this is my next blue project, and I know I won't finish them in February. I'm working on 2 pairs of socks, and I have some lingering works in progress that I want to finish. But I moved my little pumpkin progress keeper from my Christmas socks to these socks. So that's lovely. I might need to get some more progress keepers. So if you have a favorite source of stitch markers or progress keepers, let me know, because it'd be really great. Like I said, I kind of disparaged them for a while, and now I'm clearly committed to them. I actually want to take my just plain boring blue stitch marker plastic, one of those Clover stitch markers off, and just have the little pumpkin to mark my rounds. I am knitting these on my other pair of sock knitting DPNs, which I frankly don't remember the brand. Oh, haha, it says on it. they're Xiaogus. And they are also US ones, 2.25 millimeters. So having now knit with these, I knit my Night Owl socks, my Christmas socks on my high sharps, and then the other socks that I'm working on are knit on a magic loop with carbons. The high sharps are far and away my favorite. Although I really do, like I said, I really do want to get a set of carbons DPNs and give those a shot because I really do love knitting with those needles. So I might have to do that in the near future. So Holly is back. Okay, that is all of the knitting that I have to show you guys. Other things have been languishing. I just wanted to knit socks and spin. But I shared last weekend, I was working on my granny square blanket, and I've now added, there are 100 squares crocheted into this blanket. So it's really starting to look like a real blanket. And one of my Instagram followers, and I'm so sorry, I'm not going to remember who it was, but they requested that I show the whole blanket and not just the new squares that I'd crocheted on my podcast. And I said I agreed that it was time. It's been a little while since I've showed it off. And having 100 squares in it seemed perfect. So I have some ends that I still need to weave in, and I haven't actually crocheted any more squares this week. But let me show you, this is the most recent edge, as you can all tell, because, so I think I started, I might have actually crocheted all of these on to it last week. I know I did this one. This is some hand spun fiber that was gifted to me in a swap by Julie, who, oh goodness, this is just beautiful. And the colors aren't really showing up. That's a little bit better. It's just absolutely gorgeous. This is Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and my friend got her hat and her socks, and she loves them, so that was happy. These two are little minis from Night Owl Fibers that she sent me along with the yarn that she sent for the podcast. As a friendly reminder, there is a skein from her that will be a giveaway or a prize for the post-Christmas blues knit along, so that's exciting. These are some minis from a swap. Oh, do I remember who they're from? No, not offhand. Are they from Celine? They might be Celine's minis. But anyways, these were already crocheted in. I think these 4 are the ones that I added last weekend. So yes, so it's now 10 squares. Okay, I'm gonna hold it up. I don't think, let's see here. That's probably the best way to do it. So it still fits widthwise, but it no longer fits lengthwise. And oh, there it is, the whole blanket so far. So obviously there's still a long way to go. And I have a bunch more minis. I have to finish adding the squares that I've crocheted up. And then I got some minis from Nina that I shared last week, and this week I got a few more that I have to show you, which I will get to in a little bit. But I'm now sitting with this on my lap because my cat has run off. Not sure where she went, but that's okay. The next thing I have to share with you is some spinning. This might be a shorter episode. I feel like I'm nearly done. But anyways, that's okay. So I have this, which is this is the first half. I have not plied the second half yet. This is approximately 2 ounces. And you guys, I am so happy with it. I was worried that because I'd spun it so haphazardly and that I was just going to 2-ply it, that it would come out looking messy or muddy or sad. But I really don't think it has. That's closer to how the colors are in person. And I forgot how fast plying is. But yeah, so I finished this up. So it's halfway done. This is my braid from Yarn Rescue. And I just looked at her shop. She has some really lovely things in her shop at the moment. Her shop is on Etsy. Her website is yarnrescue.com. And this is eggplant. It's 100% Polworth. And I think there's a lot of Polworth in her shop. I really enjoyed spinning with the Polworth. I don't obviously have a whole lot to compare it to, but it drafts really smoothly. And nope, we focused on my face. It was just a really lovely spin. So I've so far resisted buying any more fiber from her, but someday I certainly will, because this has just been a delight to spin. So I applied it on a new, well, it's not a new spindle. It's one that it's a spindle that I have not shown on the podcast. And I looked for the tag. It's an Ari Wasserman spindle, and he is a spindle maker in Israel who he uses hardwoods, and the tag tells you, this is hardwood and this is a different hardwood, I think, and then the shaft is a third type of hardwood. And I wanted to be able to tell you what they were, but I can't find the tag. So I will post a link to Ari Wasserman spindles. I really love it, and I've lost the tag, so I don't. It's heavier than my other spindle, but it was really great to ply this on. So I wanted to share that, and then since I don't believe I showed off, and I actually don't remember. I think this might be the 4th ounce because I spun it in 4 different. I spun each of the 4 ounces individually in singles, and then I'm plying these 2 together, and this was the 1st and 2nd, and these are the 3rd and 4th ounces that I'm plying together. So this is going to be my project for this evening, I think. And I have not yet decided what I'm going to spin next. I'm leaning towards Jeanette of the Bookish Stitcher podcast last spring, quite some time ago, gave me some little ponies to spin. They're brown. They're really pretty. Brown, that sounds terrible, but they're a beautiful brown. So I think that might be what I spin next, because I think that's the next oldest fiber in my stash. And I think it might be nice to sort of spin it in the order that I acquired it, because my fiber stash, while of a reasonable size for somebody who has spun as little as I have, this is my 2nd ever spinning, by the way. And the first thing that I purchased for myself, the first spinning that I showed off, was a braid that my friend Dana, who taught me to spin, gave to me. And so I didn't pick it out. I love spinning it, but it was not my choice. And I chose this. So this is my 2nd ever braid of fiber. So the next oldest thing that I have is those 2. I think there's 2 ounces of fiber. I meant to grab them and I totally forgot. And since there's already going to be a cut in this episode, I'm not going to go get them and show them to you. But hopefully they will be on a spindle next week, and I can show them to you then. Or not next week. Why do I always do that? Next episode. I film every other weekend. Because if I filmed every week, I wouldn't have anything to show you. And then B, it would just be too much. I love filming the podcast, but it is a time-consuming endeavor, and I want to put out a good episode. So every 2 weeks is still working for me. So that's that. So hopefully next week it would be really great. You know what? No, I'm not going to say anything about my spinning goals for the next 2 weeks, because a couple of weeks ago I said that I wanted to have my doodler shawl done, and I have not picked it up. So it's still not done. So I'm just not going to say anything. So let me show you what I got in the mail. Erin of Holland Handmade Co. Here's her card. She is Mama to Abigail on Instagram, and she has the Holland Handmade podcast, as well as an Etsy shop where she sells project bags. She reached out to me on Instagram and said that she had a bunch of teeny tiny mini minis, just a couple of ounces that she wondered if I could use in my blanket since each of my squares is so small. And I said, sure. And so I was thinking, oh, she'll send me 4 or 5 minis. I think there's a dozen here. And they're teeny tiny and they are so cute. And I am so excited to put them in my blanket. I think there's a couple that I might have to strategically pair up with other ones. I'm not sure if there's enough in this blue one that I can use it to make a whole square. But I'm going to make it work because they're just so fun. Look at them all. They're tiny and cute. So I think this yellow one is one of my favorites. It's just so cheerful. And I received this mail on Thursday, I think it came. And Thursday is a long day for me. I start early and I finish late. And then on top of, everything that's going on, I have work to get done. So Thursdays are always very long. And so it was so, so wonderful to receive such happy mail. So thank you so much, Erin. This was really sweet of you, and I'm so excited to add them to my blanket. And yeah, so that's exciting. And oh, she also sent me this little crocheted ornament, which is really pretty. I haven't decided yet where I'm going to hang it, but I'm going to hang it somewhere. It has some little beads on it. So that was exciting. And okay, 2 more things. I have a question. And as a reminder, I think I said at the beginning that I have a thread for questions. So feel free to pop over there if you have a question for me. But Yarnwit asked me, perhaps you have said before and I didn't pick it up. How did you decide on the names for your kittens? And I don't think I've said before, and I think this is a great question, so I am glad to answer it. And I don't have a cat on my lap, which is so unusual. One of my cats, I apologize, you probably just heard my phone vibrate. One of my cats is sitting on the back of my sofa, and the other is in the kitchen pawing at the cupboard door. So if you can hear the banging, that's what the banging is. You probably just heard that bang. Thank you, Holly Noise. So we've had Holly and Vivi Grace are 6 years old. They'll be 7 this year, which is mind-boggling. My family has had them since they were kittens. They were both born with only 3 legs, so that's how they don't know any different. And basically the story is that my parents had 2 cats, still have those 2 cats. And my mom and I really wanted another cat. And one of the vet techs at our veterinarian had these 2 kittens, sisters, born with 3 legs. Their mom was a barn cat. The kittens were destined to be barn cats, but 3-legged cats in a barn, not such a great idea. So she was looking for a home for them. And obviously, 3-legged sisters, you can't split them up. That would just be sad. So we got both of them. And Holly's name, I think, is basically because of her coloring. They're both Dilute. Holly's a Dilute Calico, and Vivi Grace is Dilute, the Dilute Tabby Cat. Which means that their coloring is just lighter. Instead of, a true calico is like red and black and white. And Holly is kind of soft orange and gray and white. But she has a lot of orange, like soft orange on her. So I think that is where her name comes from. But as many cats do, they sort of pick up other names. I think all of our family cats over the years have picked up like extra names. And does anybody else do that? Do your cats just you start calling them things that are not really their name? And Holly is Holly Noise because she is a talker. She will sit at your feet and meow until you pick her up. I have a friend whose aunt's cat is the same way, quite the talker. And my friend told me that her aunt calls it the Litany of Woe in B flat minor. which I think is just great. Listing all of the things that have gone wrong while you have been out of the house, and isn't everything terrible and the worst? Oh, here she is. Come here. We're talking about you. Come here. Okay, so now I have a cat. This is much better. Yeah, so that's Holly Noyes. And then Vivi Grace, her name, I think the vet has her name as Vivian. I desperately wanted to call a cat Vivaldi after the Baroque composer, who's my favorite Baroque composer, possibly my favorite composer of classical music. But that's really too much of a mouthful for a little tiny three-legged girl cat. So we went with Vivian instead. My dad sometimes calls her Vivian, and her name is listed at the vet as Vivian. But she is called Vivi Grace because one day somebody was taking a shower, and she, being a curious little kitten, decided to hop up on the edge of the bathtub. And because it was slippery and because she only has 3 legs, she fell in. And so it's terrible, but she's now stuck with the name Vivi Grace. And I sometimes also call her Cheese because when she was a little kitten, she doesn't anymore, but we used to, in our refrigerator, we kept all like the cheese in a drawer. And you can't play with the Minnie's noise. Whenever she heard the drawer opening, she would come running and demand cheese. It's like when, if you open a can of tuna fish and they think it's a can of canned cat food and they come running. But she used to come running and beg for cheese, and she loved eating little scraps of cheddar cheese. She doesn't anymore, but she did as a kitten, and so that name has stuck. For her, for me anyways. I think I'm the only one who calls her that, but I think it's cute. So that is where my cats get their names. And I got them because my parents' 2 older cats and them never really got along. They sort of sometimes had a peace, but they weren't buddies. My parents' 2 other cats are buddies. They sleep next to each other, and they're really cute. But Holly kind of antagonized them, and I think Vivi Grace antagonized them too. So, and Holly and Vivi Grace they don't dislike each other, but they also don't like to, sleep next to each other. So, when I moved to Chicago, I wanted cats, and so I got the 2 family cats, and my parents got the other 2 cats, and everybody is happy. So that is the story of the cat situation. Now I have a book to tell you about. And I did remember this is the book that I said last episode that I had been planning to talk about, but my friend and I had a conversation about the book Brooklyn, or the film Brooklyn. And so I decided to talk about that one instead. But I remembered which book I was going to talk about, so I'm going to talk about it today. And that is fingers are in the way. The Alienist by Caleb Carr. And I think this book was published in like the 90s. So it's not a new novel. It was a New York Times bestseller, and yeah, copyright 1994. But I think it's sort of got a following. And Caleb Carr has written other things, but I have read none of those other things. And this is a really spectacular crime novel set in 1896 in New York City. So I will read you the back. When The Alienist was first published in 1994, it was a major phenomenon, spending 6 months on the New York Times bestseller list, receiving critical acclaim, and selling millions of copies. This modern classic continues to be a touchstone of historical suspense fiction for readers everywhere. The year is 1896. The city is New York. Newspaper reporter John Schuyler Moore is summoned by his friend Dr. Laszlo Kreutzler, a psychologist or alienist, where the story gets its name, to view the horribly mutilated body of an adolescent boy abandoned on the unfinished Williamsburg Bridge. From there, the 2 men embark on a revolutionary effort in criminology, creating a psychological profile of the perpetrator based on the details of his crimes. Their dangerous quest takes them into the tortured past and twisted mind of a murderer who will kill again before their hunt is over. Fast-paced and riveting, infused with historical detail, The Alienist conjures up Gilded Age New York with its tenements and mansions, corrupt cops and flamboyant gangsters, shining opera houses and seamy gin mills. It is an age in which questioning society's beliefs that all killers are born, not made, could have unexpected and fatal consequences. So it's definitely, I would say it's not for the faint of heart. If you do not enjoy reading crime novels, do not read this novel. But if you do enjoy reading crime novels and you haven't read it, this is a really good one. And I don't know, I loved it. I think, if you enjoy sort of Sherlock Holmesy type books, it's a great blend between just it's a good crime novel, but it's also a good historical fiction. And I think that is why I liked it so much, that it was so successful at blending both of those genres, I really enjoy crime novels, I really enjoy crime dramas on TV. And of course, I love historical fiction. And I guess this is at least the third book that I've shared on the podcast. Brooklyn last week, and then The Golem and the Jinni last summer, that is set in some historical New York City. So that's great if you enjoy books set in New York City. Oh, and I have another one that I could talk about. Maybe I'll talk about that one next week. This could be so much fun. It's a trend. If you have 4 things, that has to count as a trend, right? So that's the book for this week. Let me know if you've read it, what you thought of it. My cat is getting squirrely. I know you're getting squirrely. I'm not paying any attention to you. I'm talking about yarn and books. Very boring. I did talk about you though, and you do have quite a following. Yes, there are people on the internet who know you and they like you and they think you're cute. It's true, she is really cute. So anyways, that's the book that I have for you this week, and I really think that's it. I think that's all that I have for you this week. So this was a bit of a shorter episode, and I'm hopeful that I can splice together the two parts of this episode without too much. I have next to no video editing skills, which is why my podcasts usually have no editing because I don't know, and I don't really have the time to learn at the moment. So, but I'm relatively confident. My brother told me about a free video editing software that apparently has been used to edit major movies and stuff like that, but it's downloadable for free. I don't recall what it's called. I'll put it in the show notes in case anybody's curious. But I've played around with it a little bit. Played around with it at spring break, Christmas break, and I'm pretty confident that I can splice 2 videos together into a single video. But I'm going to get going because I almost showed you my to-do list, which is frankly crazy this weekend. Although not only does it have a lot of work on it, it also has enjoyable things like film and podcast. And yesterday I wanted to finish up those socks, and that was on my to-do list, and I crossed that off, so that was great. So yeah, it's not entirely work. I have to go to Target, and I love going to Target. I know I'm not alone in my love for going to Target, but I need to get some exciting, fun things. So, yeah, I think I will leave it here before I babble on any longer about boring things that I'm going to do with the rest of my day. And Holly and I will let you go. So thanks for watching. And if you're a new viewer, thanks for coming to check me out. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. Not too late to join in the Post-Christmas Blues Knit-Along Fun. It just has to be a project that was cast on after January 1st, and we've now passed February 1st. So if you want to cast something on and work on it, you don't even have to finish it. You can still enter it for a prize if it's not finished. So, if you have any questions about that, feel free to drop me a message or put it in the Ravelry group. And yeah, that's that. So I hope that everybody has a good couple of weeks until I see you next. And happy knitting. Bye.